How are you doing, math learners? This is your free access YouTube edu creator, math teacher Ash, and today in this video we will be evaluating trigonometric functions. So what you will be learning today is basically simplifying expressions using the trigonometric functions. We will be converting them into its equivalent values by the fractions, and we will try to simplify each given expressions. So if you are new to the channel, please click that subscribe button and notification bell for you to be updated of these cool clear math videos just like this. So without further ado, let's do this. Alright, so in evaluating functions or trigonometric functions in particular, we need to consider this table. Alright, so as you can see, so we have here the angles in degrees and angles in radians. So angles can be expressed into two things, the degrees and the radians. So for degrees, we could consider the special angles. We have the 0, 30, 45, 60, and 90. So these are known as special angles because we can derive certain values if this is incorporated with trigonometric functions. And as we all know, the trigonometric functions are the six: the sine, the cosine, the tangent, and its secondary form, the cotangent, the secant, and the cosecant. So as you can see in this table, we have an equivalency. So if we could consider 0 degrees, the sine 0 degrees is equal to 0, the cosine 0 degrees is equal to 1, the tan 0 degrees is equal to 0, the cotangent 0 degrees is known as undefined, the secant 0 degrees is equal to 1, and the cosecant 0 degrees is known as undefined. Now, of course, my dear math learners, this also considers the 30 degrees, the 45 degrees, the 60 degrees, and the 90 degrees. So these are its equivalent values in terms of the trigonometric functions. So of course, if you don't have this table, you can also apply our special trick. If you have watched my video in our channel, the simple technique of knowing the trigonometric functions, I will link that video in our comment section. Alright, so let us start solving right now. Now we have here the first problem. Evaluate sine 45 degrees plus cosine 45 degrees. So let us consider first our table, and this is the one. Alright, so as you can see in our table, we have here the values. So what we will do is we will just substitute this sine 45 and this cosine 45. So if I may, that sine 45, as you can see in our table, this is the one, 45 and then sine. That is equal to square root of 2 over 2. And our cosine 45 is also known as the same value of sine 45, that is still square root of 2 over 2. Now, in solving this, our given expression, what we will do is we will just substitute the values. So therefore, we will be having sine 45, that is equivalent of square root of 2 over 2. We are now having our solution, alright, plus square root of 2 over 2. Now, of course, my dear math learners, if you have two fractions with the same denominator, what you will do is you just copy the denominator and then you will add the numerators. Now, square root of 2 plus square root of 2, it has an invisible 1 there in its coefficient. So that will become 2 square root of 2 because there is a 1 square root of 2 here and another 1 square root of 2, giving you 2 square root of 2. Now, the question is this the final answer? My dear math learners, this is not yet the final answer because as we can see, we have our 2 here and we also have our 2 here. This can be simplified by canceling them out and you only have square root of 2 as your final answer. Easy, right? So I hope you got that one, my dear math learners. And if you don't, or if you consider this as confusion, do not hesitate to put your queries in our comment section below. Now let us go to another example. Question number 2. Evaluate tan 45 over the quantity tan 30 degrees plus tan 60 degrees. Alright, so now we will another consider our table. So as our table goes, we have here the tan column. Okay, so this is the one, the tan column. Alright, and this is our tan 45, our 30 degrees, and our 60 degrees. So we will be using this one. Alright, okay, so I hope that is clear, my dear math learners. So By tan 45, we mean that the value of that is basically 1. Our tan 30 degrees, the value of that is equal to square root of 3 over 3. Okay, as you can see right here. Alright, and our tan 60, that is equal to square root of 3. Alright, square root of 3. So now, for our solution, what we will do is we just substitute our tan 45 by this value, that is 1. So that will become 1 over our tan 30 degrees. This is square root of 3 over 3. So that is square root of 3 over 3 plus, because that is plus, tan 60, our tan 60 is square root of 3, then we close that one. So how do you simplify this? Now, of course, we will follow the PEMDAS rule. We will first solve what is inside in our parentheses. So therefore, we will copy 1 here over, and then the square root of 3 over 3 plus square root of 3 should be combined since this is plus. So what we will do is we will use the LCD. Very good. So of course, if you have a whole number, there is an invisible over 1 there. So the LCD of 3 and 1 is, of course, that is 3. So since 3 and 3 are the same, we will just copy the square root of 3 here. Okay, then we have to use the plus. Now, what will be the equivalent value for this one? So since 1, it became 3 right now, what we will do is we will multiply square root of 3 by 3 also. So that is 3 square root of 3. So this will be your denominator, my dear math learners, for the bigger fraction. So now what we will do is we will simplify this one. So as you can see, this is square root of 3. This is 3 square root of 3. Remember that in the square root of 3, there is an invisible 1 numerical coefficient outside. So therefore, that means that is 1 square root of 3 plus 3 square root of 3, giving you, very good, 4 square root of 3 over 3. So now, how will you do this one, my dear math learners? That is basically, you follow the rule in dividing fractions. So, in dividing fractions, you will just copy the numerator, okay? And then you multiply it to the reciprocal of this one. So, the reciprocal of 4 square root of 3 over 3 is basically 3 over 4 square root of 3. So, the answer for that is 3 square root 3 4 square root of 3. Now, my dear math learners, is this the final answer? Sad to say, it is still not finished because it is prohibited for us to have a final answer with a radical sign in the denominator side. So, we need to rationalize this one. So, how do we rationalize? We multiply it by square root of 3. And then here in the numerator, we also multiply square root of 3. Now, if that is the case, then we will be multiplying 3 times square root of 3 in the numerator, giving us 3 square root of 3 over, that is 4 square root of 3 times 4 square root of 3, that will give us 4 square root of 9. Because 3 times 3, according to the law of radicals, we can multiply the radicands by its radicand. Alright, so now we will simplify. The square root of 3 doesn't have any simplified form, so we just copy that one. And then the square root of 9, that is equal to 3. So that gives us 4 times 3. So my dear math learners, as you can see, we have now whole numbers outside the radicand. So we have 3 here, we also have 3 here, so we can cancel them. Alright, so the final answer for this is square root of 3 over 4. And that is our final answer, my dear math learners. I hope you got that one. Alright, now let us go to the next question. Question number 3. Evaluate sine 60 degrees, tan 30 degrees. So as you can see, my dear math learners, in this given expression, you don't see any plus or minus between the two functions. So that automatically means that this is multiplication. So of course, we need to consider the values in our table. So first things first, what we need to do is to check the value of our sine 60. So sine 60, this is 60 here, and the sine is here. Alright, so square root of 3 over 2, as well as our tan 30. So that is here, and then we go here. So that is square root of 3 over 3. You just multiply them and you get the value. Alright, so let us try, my dear math learners. Later on, I will also give you series of questions in which you will be the one solving. Okay, so I hope that is clear so that you can also test yourself whether you have understood our topic. Okay, so we have sine 60 based on our given, that is square root of 3 over 2. Okay, and then we also have tan 30, that is square root of 3 over 3. So square root of 3 over 3. So since this 2 doesn't have any plus or minus between them, it means that is multiplication. So therefore, we will just multiply this fraction to this fraction, giving us square root of 3 over 2 times square root of 3 over 3. So as you can see, my dear math learners, this is square root of 3 times square root of 3, that will give you square root of 9. And then 2 times 3, that is 6. So if you simplify this one, the square root of 9 or 9 is a perfect square, so it has a square root, and that is positive 3 divided by or over 6. Okay, now 3 over 6 can still be taken into its lowest form. So by using the lowest terms, it will become 1/2. Okay, and that will be your final answer. I hope, my dear math learners, this is very clear to you. Now, let us go to our next question, question number 4. Now, question number 4, we have to evaluate the expression 6 cosine squared 90 degrees plus 3 sine squared 90 degrees plus 4 tan 45 degrees. So, how do we solve that one, my dear math learners? Now, of course, we will consider our table first. And what does it mean if you have a squared in our trigonometric function? Now, my dear math learners, if you do have a square in your trigonometric function, what you will do is you just consider cosine 90 in your table, okay, cosine 90, and then the answer for that, or the value of that, you squared it. Alright, so I hope that is clear. So cosine 90, let's consider that one. So cosine squared 90, that means, what is your cosine 90? So this is 90, your cosine is 0, so that means 0 squared. Okay, 0 squared. Now, of course, why is there a 6 here? That means multiplication. So a 6 is multiplied to the cosine squared 90 degrees. Alright, now how about sine squared 90? Okay, sine squared 90 degrees, as we can see here, our sine 90 is 90 here, then that is the value of 1. So that means 1 squared. Now, the answer for this one, you will multiply it by 3. And finally, we have tan 45 degrees. So this is not squared. So our answer could be 1. So by simplifying, we have here 6. Okay, so 6 multiplied by 0 squared. Okay, that is the 1. Then we add plus, we copy the 3. And then sine squared 90, that is 1 squared. So we multiply 1 squared. And then plus 4. Because we have a 4 here, tan 45. Our tan 45 is 1. So, by simplifying, 0 squared is equal to 0. 0 times 6, that is 0. Plus 1 squared, okay, we are following the PEMDAS rule. 1 squared is 1. 1 times 3, that is 3. Plus 4 times 1, because there is no squared here, so we automatically multiply them. So 4 times 1, that is 4. And if we add 0 plus 3 plus 4, the final answer would be 7. So I hope, my dear math learners, you got that one. Easy, right? Okay. So let us go to question number, I think we go to question number 5. Now for question number 5, my dear math learners, we have evaluate sine 30 degrees, cosine 60 degrees, plus cosine 30 degrees times sine t degrees. Now, what is the value of that one? I will give you this as your exercise for this video, my dear math learners, so that you also can have a test yourself in your homes, and then you can show or you can share it to me in our comment section what is the answer for this fifth expression. Okay, so just a reminder, you also need to consider the table for that one. I'll give you a hint. This one means you get the value of sine 30, you get the value of cosine 60, then you multiply it together. And then you get the cosine 30 as well as the sine 60, then you multiply it together before you add the result of both sum for the first term and the second term. Alright, so I hope, my dear math learners, you got that one. So now let us go to question number 6. Now we have here question number 6. For cotangent squared 45 minus secant squared 60 degrees plus sine 60 degrees plus cosine squared 60 degrees. Alright, so it is quite long and challenging. Of course, my dear math learners, I will also give you this as your exercise because this is just like what we have earlier in the given example. If you can remember, we have example number 3 in which we already know how to use if there is a squared in our trigonometric function. Okay, so of course I hope that you can solve this properly. Okay, so do not hesitate to ask for help if you need to, my dear math learners. Now let us go to question number 7. So we have here sine 60 degrees cosine 30 degrees plus sine 30 degrees cosine 60 degrees. So my dear math learners, this is very easy. Why? Because sine 60 and cosine 30 are equivalent values. Okay? And sine 30 and cosine 60 are also equivalent values. So in our table, as we can see, the sine 60 here is square root of 3 over 2. We also have our cosine 30 square root of 3 over 2. So let me just directly share or solve that to you, my dear math learners. So the value of this one is square root of 3 over 2, while the value of this one is square root of 3 over 2. Now, because they are beside with each other, it means that is multiplication, my dear math learners. Then we add them. Then sine 30, we have our 30 here, and then sine 30, that is 1 half. So 1 half multiply by 1 half. So the answer for that is you just simplify. So when you multiply fraction to fractions, the technique is very simple. You multiply the numerators, and then you multiply the denominators, and then you simplify. So square root of 3 times square root of 3, that is square root of 9. 2 times 2, that is 4. Alright. Plus 1 times 1, that is 1. 2 times 2, that is 4. So the square root of 9 is a perfect square. So we can get the principal root of this one. So that will become 3 plus 1 over. And if you have the same denominator, you just copy it. So that gives you 4 over 4 because 3 plus 1 is 4. Then 4 over 4 is equal to 1. So that is your final answer for this problem. I hope you got that one, my dear math learners. Now let us go to the next problem. Next problem, my dear math learners, is another easy one. Evaluate sine squared 30 degrees plus cosine squared 30 degrees. Okay, so in order to solve this, let us consider our value table first, or table of values. Okay, so in this, my dear math learners, let us consider sine 30. So sine 30 is 1 half. Sine squared 30, that means 1 half squared. Okay, so the value of sine 30, then you squared it. Okay, then cosine 30, we have cosine 30, that is square root of 3 over 2. So cosine squared 30 is equal to square root of 3 over 2, then you squared it. Okay, so in our solution, my dear math learners, what you will do is you just squared this one plus you squared this 1. Alright, so by doing so, 1 squared, that is 1, 2 squared, that is 4. Okay, so that is our first term. Square root of 3 squared, that will give you square root of 9. 2 squared, that is 4. So by adding, you cannot add them first, but you can copy already their denominator because they are the same. Now 1 plus square root of 9. The square root of 9, that value is basically 3, right? So 1 plus 3. So we have 4, and the answer is still equal to 1. Very easy, my dear math learners. Now, if you do have some question, do not hesitate to put it in our comment section below. Now, let us go to the next given. We have secant squared 45 degrees, cosecant squared 45 degrees minus 1. Okay, so in solving this one, my dear math learners, we need to use our table. Okay, so what is the value of our secant 45 degrees? So if we check our table, we have this one 45, and the secant of that one is square root of 2. So therefore, the value of this one is square root of 2 squared. Okay, so I hope you got that one because it is right here, secant squared. Okay. I hope that is clear to you, my dear math learners. Then cosecant 45, so cosecant 45, that is here. That is what is beside it. Okay, so that means we need to multiply square root of 2 by itself. So that is the square root of square root of 2. They have the same value. The secant 45 and the cosecant 45 are just the same. Alright, then we have minus 1 as the end. So the squared of square root of 2, that is square root of 4. And the squared, same, square root of 4 minus 1. So the square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 4 is 2. So you multiply them with each other, minus 1. The final answer is 4 minus 1. And your final answer would be 10. 3. Okay, I hope, my dear math learners, you got that one. And now, let us go to question number 10. Now, for question number 10, my dear math learners, we have here sine 30 degrees plus cosine 60 degrees plus secant 60 degrees. Okay, so in solving this, we need to use again our table. So, by doing so, we will check our sine 30 degrees. So what is the value of sine 30 degrees? This is the one, that is 1/2. So we just copy that one, okay? And then what is the value of cosine 60 degrees? So 60 degrees, the cosine here is this one. Okay, still 1/2. So we add them. And then the secant 60 degrees. Where is 60 degrees here? And then the secant is this one. So that is the one. So that is plus 2. So my dear math learners, this is very easy. When you simplify 1/2 plus 1/2, that is 2 over 2 plus 2. Okay, so I just solved this one. You copy the denominator, you add the numerators, and then what you will do is simplify 2 over 2, which is equal to 1, plus the last added, and that is 1 plus 2, that is equal to 3. My dear math learners, I hope you got that one very easy. Now, let us go to our last question, my dear math learners. And this question number 11, I will give this to you as your another exercise. So, I will be giving you 4 exercises for this one. So, we have tan squared 60 degrees minus 2 tan squared 45 degrees minus cotangent squared 30 degrees plus 2 sine squared 30 degrees. Okay, so of course, you need to consider our given table. So I'll just give you a hint in solving this one. So tan 60, that is 60 here, and the tan here is this one. So square root of 3. Since that is squared, so that will become square root of 3 squared. Alright, tan 45, you have 45 here, the tan there is 1. So 2 times 1 squared. Alright, and then cotangent squared 30, that is cotangent, that is here. Okay, you have square root of 3. Okay, and since that is squared, so square root of 3 squared, you have that 1. And finally, for 2 sine squared 30, that is the same here. So that is 1/2. 1/2 squared, then the answer of that, you multiply it by 2. Okay, so you now have the simplified versions of your terms. And then solve each term. Then after you solve each term, you need to apply the rules in adding and subtracting fractions. So I hope, math learners, you show your solution and you put it in our comment section below so we can check whether you have understood our topic. But I am sure, my dear math learners, that because of what we have discussed right now, you have a very high probability that you will get these problems. Okay, so of course, if you do have questions, feel free to comment in our message section or comment section. Congratulations, math learners, you just mastered this lesson, and I hope if you think that this can help your friends, classmates, and schoolmates, you like, share, and subscribe to our channel. This has been your YouTube Edu Creator Math Teacher Ash, saying that it is fun to learn mathematics if we are together learning. Thank you so much. God bless and keep safe always.